Go.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking us. This is new to me, and I hope we do a good job. I wish my mom and dad was here. They could really do a good job.
Yeah.
This is my wife Kathy and my daughter Amanda. Gene Allen, my cousin. Kay's my cousin. But anyway, I've farmed all my life. My parents, my grandpa Drake, they came from Dearborn County, moved up here in 1919. My dad was 2 years old when they moved up, and they got word of the place from Roy Canfield. Roy Canfield and my grandma Flossie were cousins. So Roy called down there to Orville, which is my grandma Flossie's dad, says, hey, there's a nice place, not called, but he wrote a letter, 19. But anyway, there's a nice place out here for sale, and we think you'd like it. Come look at it. So they did. They came up and looked at it. And he says, if you don't take it, I will. Roy Canfield. Remember Roy? Roy Nidus? So they came and looked at it, and Grandpa said, well, it's a pretty nice location. It was a big house and had the barracks owned it before, and they had an electrical plant in there. They were trying to make their own electricity. And that, of course, they had to take all that out, and Grandma was kind of depressed about that. But we got that all that out, and they moved up in 1919, and then they proceeded to have 4 more boys. They had
Five boys in 8 years.
Dad was the oldest. He was Willard, and then Ralph, and then Herschel, and then Bud, and then Art, and they all kind of farmed except for Bud. He was a doctor at Elwood, and they all kind of lived around here. Ralph lived up here. He married a Wells girl, Elizabeth Wells. He lived right up here. He died in the 80s.
Middle 80s.
Yeah. Herschel lived just south of where she lives now on 700 North.
East.
Art lived right there at the place because when they moved there, the house was already there. Some people by the name of May Denham lived there to help my grandpa farm. As soon as Art come back he met his wife Catherine, and they came back and they had to move out. He moved in, so they started farming, and they farmed that land, and Mom and Dad got together. They went they went to high school together. They graduated in 36, got married in 36. They had my sister in 39. I was born in 47.
What was your sister's name?
Linda.
Linda.
She died in 1990.
I remember her.
Yeah.
Who did your parents?
Willard and Wilma.
Okay, but who did they buy the first farm? The ones that come up here and bought the farm?
They bought it from my grandpa bought it from people named Barracks.
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 Okay.
And what was your grandfather's name?
Clifford.
Clifford and
Flossie.
right?
Clifford.
She was an only child,
I didn't know that.
and they lived down when they all went. Dearborn County's down close to Cincinnati, so that's like a lot of their pictures and their postcards, because he's got postcards that they all saved, and it's just beautiful handwriting. But they go there for pictures, shop, and postcards, and it all came through Cincinnati.
So many people came up this way from that area.
Yeah, but when she had Wilma told me when she had all the boys, since she didn't have any sisters or brother, like sister-in-laws, her aunts, they'd come up and stay for 3 or 4 months at a time and help her with the boys. And Evelyn Ruth Rigsby, she told us, she went over to see Amanda's house a few years ago, before the pandemic, and she remembers that house the way it was. Amanda wrote some stuff down, but it was just her and all the boys, because there was Glenn and Virgil and then all the Drake boys. So she had to fight for herself. But Flossie I guess these aunts and whatever came up at the time a baby was born to help her.
She was real strong-willed. She was
Oh,
real
yes.
strong-willed. She loved all of her grandkids, and if she wasn't a favorite thing, if any of them was misbehaving, she'd grab them by the ear and just start walking. Grab you by the ear and just start, and better you went with her, because she didn't let loose. And you didn't forget it. So if she told you to do something, you better do it, because that's her
When
little.
Linda was born, see, she's the first girl. Well, Flossie had all these boys, so she was passed around a lot, Wilma said.
Okay, then, my dad married, Shively, what was her first name?
Hazel
Hazel Shively.
was Wilma's.
My mom's mother was Hazel Shively, and she died when my mom was 4.
Five.
And
And when Norma was.
Norma,
Yeah.
his mother, that she was younger than Mom. How old?
She's 2, I think. Her mom died.
Okay, but so at that point, my grandpa Ernie Braddock had a sister named Dorothy, or they call her Aunt Dot, and she lived at Newcastle. She married Bob Jones. Bob Jones had a brother named Lyman Jones who lived right out here on
Yeah, I knew Lyman.
They were brothers.
They're all
But
related.
Bob was a banker. He lived at Newcastle, and Grandpa Braddock kind of had different ideas about going to school and staying, and he wanted to go someplace that they didn't want to, and so Aunt Dot got involved, and she said, "No, we're gonna go to school here. We're gonna do it this way," and they did.
She was a teacher, wasn't she? Dot, wasn't she a school teacher?
I think she was, but she was
Yeah, she was a teacher. Well, they wouldn't.
both her and Norma really. She
Yeah.
took them under kind of, because she died in 1922, and they were born in 18, and
Yeah.
so. But anyway, they got married, and then we got set up, and Dad and Mom, after they lived in a little house. Ernie Braddock had our grandpa had a log house down here. It's still here. And there's one right behind it that's not log, and there's another across the creek that is log, and there's 4 logs in there. Anyway, Mom and Dad lived, when they got married, they lived in the first house east of there for a few, not very long.
No.
Not very long. And then they moved out to 400 West, right around the corner from 700 North, where Grandma and Grandpa Flossie and Clifford live. And that's where they bought that farm and got started there on there's 160 acres there. And that's how they got started right there. And then,
Well, Willard tried to work at the factory.
oh, he didn't try, he did. It was in the
Well-
Depression, and he worked at Delco Remy for 10 years.
And farm.
Mom worked at the Banner store in Anderson.
She worked at the,
Mom also worked at Useless Hardware. Right over here, used to be at, where the lodge is now.
Yeah.
That was, she worked in there. And, I didn't know, she said Mom told her that she washed, towels for
from the barber.
Freddie Day.
yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And
I don't remember
Yeah.
that. I was,
she said she had she told me she had one of those ironers. Do you remember that? And ironed the towels? Yeah.
so, but they made it. They sold eggs, and they just struggled through it. It was tough, but they made it, and that's. And then, in the 50s, when I was, in middle, going to Leach and everything, we used to bring wheat and corn, soybeans and wheat to the elevator. Frankton Granite Coal was big. It was big.
My dad came down from
And
Tipton County.
more than once, and I'm sure Gene Allen can remember, more than once, we'd come in here with a tractor and wagon that you had to drive in and dump it, either dump it or you had to unhook it and they dumped it for you. And we'd be down here at the lumber yard down here at Washington Street. And the next block over, they'd be lined up to get in, to get weighed and go in. More than once, I've seen them lined up on both streets. So that was kind of different. Wheat, mostly wheat, a little bit of soybeans. Of course, nobody shelled corn then. Everybody picked it on the ear and put it in corn cribs and either fed it or shelled it off and sold it later. But that was kind of interesting, I thought. And that elevator, I just thought it was the greatest thing to come up here to the elevator. That was just, and it was a nice one. Dally Gordon ran it for a while. Your, yeah, he ran it. I mean, he did a nice job. They did it. It was,
silos still there.
yeah, they did it. It was a nice elevator. You could get feed. You could bring your grain in. They had, the stuff for hogs and cattle. It was very, very nice. But anyway, that's gone. Also in the county, at that time, we had machinery dealerships. My lands, we had Hardee's and Anderson. We had, what was the name in Ellick?
McKnight's.
No, McKnight's was in Elwood. In Ellick, there was one in Ellick. It was
I said there used to be an Oliver dealer,
what was what?
Oliver dealer over here, right over here.
Yeah, we had a lot of machinery dealers back then, and now we only got one in the county, and that's one machine, that's Bain Equipment that I know of, and but John Deere's got one over on 31. They got a nice. They're all good, but they're just an hour from here in Muncie. But that's changed quite a bit. Also, we had livestock, cattle, and we had hogs. We had a few hogs. Back then, everybody had a few hogs. We even milked some. They're on 400, and everybody had some of that. And I had a milk house where we had to keep milk in a can, keep it cool, and they come and picked it up. And then Emge's was big back then, so big. They would just take everything. They took hogs, they take cull cows, they take
Goats.
fat hogs, anything. They take them, and you could go in there at Christmas and buy a beautiful ham. Take it we used to do that a lot, but
So is that a butcher shop or?
it was a processing plant,
Yeah.
and they
It's-
sold everywhere.
Everybody wanted empty ham.
Emge ham, yeah.
Wonderful.
500
Yeah.
people, maybe more than that.
At Frankton, the 7th grade always took a trip to Emge's. And I never forgot that, cause I didn't quite feel the same afterwards, and then they gave us a hot dog.
Yeah.
Remember that? A raw hot dog.
I see the machine where they filled it too.
Yeah.
Oh, but, they had cattle, I'm thinking they even killed them in front of, I mean, it was
Really did.
gruesome. But
I,
it was
Yeah, our
reality.
4-H club came over, and I saw cows' heads on the conveyor,
Yes.
and they were still moving them out.
But that
Yeah,
was-
it changes you on, yeah.
But that was a school trip.
Yeah.
At 7th, and when you were in 7th grade. Frank.
I took the same trip. Then I went to school and come back. I taught school at Ellick from 70 to 80. So I asked the principal, said, would you care if I took a group to one of my classes no, that'd be great. Well, I did, but about a year after they quit doing it because they got stuff to bad taste in their mouth, kids. But it is educational. See how they killed them hogs? They gassed them and sent them up and then stuck them and then shot them in the head with the plastic bullet. It's an education to see how they do that. That's
Boy, I hit the cattle and get
I
flat.
remember that. Well, that was a trip.
you
Were
don't.
you at Frankton or Leach?
Maybe not all went, but
Addie, were you Frankton or Leach?
Leach.
In 7th grade. Well, this was a Frankton. I don't know about Leach.
So we
but
went there.
Frankton.
Yep.
Leach, we went there.
I went
Well, I
there.
must have missed it,
That's
cause I
why
don't
we're all
remember.
scarred. I never went.
But
there.
it was.
It's right there on 8th Street, and now the county has it, don't they?
It's a dog kennels or something in there.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah, it
it's
is.
all torn down,
Used to be
yeah.
empty products in about every grocery store you went in. around the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
They were good too.
They got
It was good stuff.
Give me-
Bacon and, yeah.
Andy's Harvest Market had an empty ham up there, $105.
No
Today?
kidding. Wow.
Was that today or? Just today?
That's probably about
For
Christmas,
ham.
about Christmas,
Yeah,
last Christmas.
Oh,
that's
whole
nice.
ham, probably just
Oh,
half.
yeah, it's big ham. Yeah, $100, probably $5 back in the day, wasn't it?
No kidding?
Yeah.
So we just, let's see, and then, back then, we brought her all the then in 1968, Tom Redmond and Dave Fox, they got out of school and they decided they wanted to build an elevator. And they did, right out here at the junction of 600 and 400. Big elevator, well, it wasn't big then, but they,
it grew.
so everybody kind of left Frankton because this was so much nice and newer. You could get in so quick. And back then, but then there was a lot of people shelling corn in the field, not picking. So that was another reason that they did it. So they started in 1968, and then they sold out about what 2 or 3 years ago
Yeah.
to Kokomo
Before
Grain.
the pandemic, right before the pandemic.
But we're gifted to have them in our area. And when they built that, when Tom and Dave built that, across the road, Shell built a fertilizer plant. And who was the guy? Was it Dellinger run that?
Maybe, Bob?
Bob Dellinger's dad, the one that passed. Bob Dellinger's dad, I think, ran that at first. But we had a place to sell our grain. We had to buy a place to buy our fertilizer. We had it made. Still
Go
do.
over there and get your money and take it across the river?
Yeah. We had her made. But a lot of people, I tell people, oh, we can drive 30 or 40 miles. He said, oh, I'm lucky. I drive 2 miles. So we're very fortunate to have that, really. But
So did they run the one downtown pretty much out of business?
well, not out of business. It kept going, but they just couldn't. They couldn't for feed. It kept going for feed and supplies. Cattle and hog and supplies, chicken. But they couldn't keep up. They couldn't dump grain near as fast as they could out there.
Yeah.
They still took your corn up here.
Yeah, they still-
Crushing,
Yeah.
ground feed and stuff.
Yep.
They
It
still
was-
had that service for you.
When did it close? In the sixties uptown?
This elevator?
Yeah, or was it seventies? I don't.
Redmond came in '68, and I think it was pretty close after that.
Okay.
Did the closing of the railroad have anything to do with it?
Oh yes,
This
yes,
closing probably
yes,
as well?
yes.
Well, Redmond had to buy
They-
that railroad.
From Anderson out, they had to buy it. Tom and Dave had to buy that leg,
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
but it paid off for them on the
Yeah.
getting rid of their
When we
grain at a better
first
price.
moved home after he finished up Purdue with, Wilma, of course, lived over on 600, but she called that home on 400. Of course, that's, where they raise the kids. And she said, well, the train will go by at noon, so you'll know it's lunchtime. So all the guys knew that, because they all farmed together on some of the stuff for a while.
My grandpa Clifford told a story about that. He had horses. When they came, they had used horses, and south of the barn over there, they were plowing, and the horses knew that when the train came through, they stopped and ate.
So they
The horse, after so much, they were going that way, and the fried chickens this way. They were going that way, and the train. Dad said the train came through, and the horses just stopped, and they wouldn't go. So Grandpa says, "Well, let's go eat." So they turned right in the middle of the field and so that's just I didn't see that, of course, but my dad told me that.
Those are wonderful memories.
We have
Yeah.
a corn crib where we live there at Wilma Willard's, and it hasn't had corn in it for years. And we had the Amish down to look at a building, and they said, "You use that corn crib?" Of course, he said no. He said, "Well, if we do anything for you, we'll take it down and keep it. It's part of labor." So they're going to take, and it's in perfect shape. Every year I look at it and think, what can I do with this, And then her husband's going to take the tin at the top and make a cover over their deck.
Cool.
So see what you can do with all the old things.
Yeah.
A lot of people use the little old grain bins, the little ones that.
Yeah.
don't use,
Yeah.
make Stuff out the backyard, like patio thing down small
Yeah.
bins.
Yeah, I saw one
Kathy's-
down on 28. or-
Yeah,
or
Kathy
128.
Sizlove has one,
Is that
and,
her?
yeah, and the next to her, and then her son has
I
one.
remember I went to the Flower and Patio Show, and that's what they used, was several of those farming storage bins and stuff.
Yeah,
To do garden works and all that stuff with. It was so creative.
Yeah,
Far as the farm's concerned, there's been in the last, Phil Bott would know, and Gene out, there's been so much change in farming. Of course, everybody now, you gotta have a lot of bushels or a lot of pounds to generate money, so everything's so much bigger. And I think the big thing for me, since I've been farming, is no-till farming is big now, and the development and sale of Roundup. Roundup really cleaned up the soybean fields, because, you know, a lot of people had trouble. Back when we first started with road planters, you could just ban it, like a Amavin or something in the road to kill, and then you'd have to cultivate in between them to kill them. And it got to be where it's hard to kill them at the end of the year, so, Roundup was a big thing, I think, for, don't you, Gene?
Sure, yeah.
And then no-till farming. Don't you think, Phil?
Yep.
No-till farming was big. I mean, that
No-till
Cha-
farming saved the soil,
saved, yeah.
Big
just-
labor cut too.
Yeah.
Expense, fuel.
and your chemicals you're putting in the
Everything,
ground don't
yeah.
dissipate like they
Right.
would if you worked that ground all the time.
So between 19, when they came up in 19, and just, of course, Dad died in 04. Mom died in 13, but they saw a lot of it, but there's so much change in agriculture. And it's all been good. Sometimes, today I have a tough time accepting all this high-tech crap, because you go into a tractor now and they got all this stuff on the side, and I'll have to get out the book, and I'm doing, my grandson Wyatt comes in. He says, "What are you doing,
Does it
Papa?"
all.
Is he 2 years old?
He's 20. He says, "What are you doing, Papa?" I said, "Oh, I'm trying to set this dang on thing to do this." He said, "Well, let me help you. Let's go." 3 seconds,
I know.
right?
We're all in the same boat.
3 seconds. I said, "How do you do that?" And of course, I have him to help with my phone too, and her and my daughter. But anyway, I'm not a high-tech person. I gotta learn to be better, but I'm not very high-tech.
well, when they started no-till, and my dad farmed west of Elwood out at New Lancaster all his life. And like, they have the planters now, like, to go in corn. What was corn last year will be beans this year if you rotate. Well, his dad they'll never come up. They'll never come up.
Yeah, first time we no-till, Dad says, "I can't stand it." Dave Fox at the elevator says, "Go to Florida for 2 weeks and come back." And did that. And he had a good idea, but of course, it was ugly. Go right in on corn stalks and plant it. It just looked awful, because we were used to plowing it,
Yeah.
working it,
3 times.
Yeah.
work it 3 times, so it's like a garden, and then plant it. And it really was, but it took a lot of energy, took a lot of time, so we've,
A lot of gas.
a lot of stuff. So we've really improved ourselves that way, but
But I miss that, when the plow went down and threw that dirt over there and they
It-
made that slick slab to
Yeah.
go up there, and then they take the tractor out and all down, and just
Work-
powder. Go
Yeah.
out there and run through that with your bare feet.
yeah.
Oh,
My dad did that no-till. Glenn Hall had one of those. He'd come over, he said, let me plant some no-till, Eugene. He goes, "Oh," he said, "I can't raise beans like this. You got it like your dad." He goes, "Well, I'll do that way back on the back of your place. I'll just go in there and do that for you. Nobody can see it from the road." Well, Dad said, "Well, make sure that's the one you get." And he does. Dad go back there and he'd watch that. Of course, it takes a little bit longer to come up, and you gotta have a rain or something.
Right.
Dad, I think he'd probably sit back there every morning watching. He couldn't believe those beans started coming up. And, that ended up being like the best yield he got on that field.
Yeah.
You know, not by a
Yeah,
lot,
it's-
but by a few bushel. He couldn't believe it.
Enough to make him completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he couldn't believe it.
Now, the seed companies had a lot to do with that too. They've really improved their seed. That and the Roundup
Man,
and
that's
this,
ugly.
it's all together, it's a lot different now than it was, but the day of a 160 acre farm and making it, you gotta have bushels because the equipment is so expensive. Everything is so expensive, all the inputs. So you gotta have a lot of bushels or a lot of pounds. We sold cattle this week and we took them, now we used to take them to Imgees years ago, but now we take them to Rushville, an hour and a half from here. And they weighed 1342, and then this is something I wish my dad was here. $1.60, and that's
A pound.
for per pound for live weight. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not used to it. Dad, I can still see Joe Ingersoll coming out to the farm. We've had right there at the lot where I live now, and he finally got 40 head ready, a semi. Joe'd say, I think I can give you 42. Dad says 42. Joe, I need 45 or 6. Oh, I can't do that. It's just.
They
but
were
now,
buyers for producers.
$1.60, and I'm not bragging. Don't miss it. It's just the market. That's just the same way of, but it's just so much different now.
And they want the cattle bigger now.
It's just a different ballgame. And corn and beans they're compared to when we used to go over here. They'd be $1 and a nickel, $1 and a dime, $1 and a quarter, and they go up maybe 5 cents in a year. Now they can go up
40 cents.
40 cents in 30 seconds.
I know when I was probably in high school, and I think corn price was like $1.30, Dad couldn't believe it got $1.30.
Yeah.
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 But my dad lived long enough, he was over in a nursing home, and we were doing it.
Wages, they went up a lot too.
Yes, they have.
And,
I used to farm for
corn hit
$3
$3.
a half a day, that's a
Yeah.
10-hour day.
Yeah.
Ty
No,
come
it-
in
Buy
and
your own
said,
dinner.
Yeah.
he said, Grandpa, corn hit $3. Dad said, what? $3? Oh my gosh. He said, well, I guess I have to go ahead and go now.
Yeah, it's
I like it here, but.
I was fortunate, my dad, who some of you knew, lived to be 103. And he died at the assisted living in Elwood of natural causes during the last of the pandemic. But he got to come out, and until he was in his 100, he'd come out and ride in the combines with them. And I know, he's just been gone 2 years, so yeah, it's and I'm glad, and Willard got to see some of it. I'm thinking of my grandparents. My grandpa, Yarling, would have, well, he couldn't believe it. He'd have sat there and probably not said a word, which that's unusual for him, but of the way we do things now. My Dad said he remembered, he got the first tractor, Grandpa did, the iron wheels with,
Steel wheel.
yeah, that was their first tractor after horses. And I'm sure that's the way it was down here too.
Yeah, we started with but I can remember that in the 50s, we had an H and an M.
Yeah.
Those are K's products, yeah.
Yeah, well,
Big tractor.
it's,
I've still got Dad's.
go out there in the field and with the 2-bottom plow and just stay out there for hours and you turn around, you maybe got. I said, Dad, is there any way we can? No, what's wrong?
Just keep the wheels turning.
So we got, then we just, as international, we had internationals, but there's, John Deere was just as good, and anyway, we kind of got a bigger tractor that pulled, instead of 3 plows, it pulled 4 plows in my lands, and it had a heat houser on it. Man, that was wonderful.
A heat houser
Unless
is
the
like
wind
a
was out that way and you're going that way, the boy coming this way, you're just hot.
Yeah.
But it's just today's tractors are just, you'd have to see one to believe it, how
Yeah,
nice they are.
it is.
And they're
Brick
so,
leg falling out of it though.
so expensive.
Even the used ones are expensive, if people have taken care of them.
Everything's expensive.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's just life, but,
Doug, how do you think farming that you're describing affected the town of Frankton?
oh, yeah.
And vice versa, how do you think, what impacted the?
Well, all the
farming?
farmers back then traded in town, traded groceries, and, my mom and dad went to Useville Hardware. I don't know, what was it called before Johnny bought it? Over here, it used to be the Lodge.
Where the,
Then right around the corner was remember Ez Braddock? Ez Braddock had those onion burgers. They were good.
Right,
And then next to that was, help me, Nails.
the post
office.
the post office.
Oh, yeah. Okay, post office.
Which is still
Harper's
there.
Furniture Store.
Harper's is on, yeah, yeah.
Well, it seemed like that the Frankton farmers had an integral impact on the community. They were very much part of it.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah.
they lived outside of the city, the town limits, they were still very active
Well,
in the school.
they were, and then when Heritage Day started, they called the area farmers that had experience driving the tractors to drive the shuttles. Gene Allen and I drove one, Rich Wines drove one, Bowslogs drove one. A lot of people in this area drove, just to come in and help, take your turn. But, yeah, you're right, there's, we all, traded up here and went to school here, and it's just a,
his sister went to the old where the old and then he got to go to the new, where the high school is now.
I think my sister was in the last class that graduated from the old school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
she was,
Jack.
she's in my class.
Yeah, so I
Nancy.
think the new school was done enough, they could have graduated in it,
Yeah, they
but
said
they
we,
chose not to.
yeah, they said you guys can go over there and graduate. We said, this is
Yeah.
our school here.
Yeah.
And so we went to stayed in the old one.
And Willard told us Franklin's colors used to be
purple.
And gold.
purple and
It
gold.
was.
Purple and gold in the 50s.
And
Muff
then they
Davis
changed.
it. Muff Davis changed
They
that.
muffed it, I didn't know who.
Him and, what was the teacher's name?
Well, Mrs. Davis, Marilyn
Yes.
Bowers, I
Yeah.
guess he asked her for some suggestions, and she
Big-
said red and white because it wouldn't bleed.
Back then, after they had a ball game, they had to wash the uniforms right
Yeah.
away. And when they'd wash them, they would bleed. So he went to her and said, what's the best colors we can have? He told us,
He
remember?
said this at the alumna,
Yeah.
Frankton
Yeah.
alumna, back right before COVID,
Yeah.
before COVID hit, that's what he told at the
We know
alumna.
somebody's got one of the old, leather jackets or something coming from back then.
Well, don't you have some too?
Somebody-
I have the letters that were on my dad's.
Okay, I see
That's
somebody with
what
one of
you're
that
I got a
purple.
pair of socks that belonged to Eva Trishel,
Okay, the purple and gold.
purple and gold.
Well, I remember there was a purple and gold fight. Does anybody else remember that?
Well, if you-
Purple and gold fight?
My mom had
If
said
you
that
remember,
before.
the curtains,
Their band-
the curtains in the old school was
Purple
purple.
and gold.
Yes.
Well, I know my cousin, our cousin Peggy was in the band, and her uniform was purple and gold. She was the same age as Larry Canaday, and I don't know how old he is, so it was that age group.
I graduated from Walnut Grove in 55 and they were purple and gold also. So you'll see those two schools get together, cause Frankton and Walnut Grove was like Frankton and LaPel.
Yeah.
Oh,
And those two purple and golds out there on the floor.
But I kind of remember it more of like a maroon and gold. Was it actually purple?
Yes.
It was purple.
I guess I don't
Very
remember
much
that.
purple.
It was purple.
I just
Wow.
have the letter, not the.
I can't imagine that, no, after seeing red and white on.
But I was in the second grade when she had it, so that was 49.
Yeah.
It was purple and gold.
I don't know whatever happened to it, but when I coached the fifth and sixth grade up here, they had all the old uniforms up there, up in the attic. And there was, there was tons of old uniforms up there, purple,
where really went to?
I don't know whatever happened to it.
Well, was that in the old school or the new school?
It was in the old school, clear up in the attic.
Has
That's where
Jerry
you went
got
up
him?
above
I was
you
told
went up
that,
above the stage, And we
I was
have
told a
got
lot of
a
that
size.
stuff was transferred to the new school and then they had that
There's-
fire.
There's
Wasn't
stuff, there's stuff at the new
New
elementary school,
Way up
that's way
high
back.
somewhere.
Huh.
There's
Okay.
stuff at the current high school, but it's not uniforms, there's pictures,
Or was it just the pictures up there?
there's old pictures.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, we'd like to take a look at it.
Anybody got any questions?
I wanna climb up a
I have a
ladder.
question in regard to the solar panels. What is your take on the farmer's take on, that actually works the land? What's the take on the solar panels?
I'm not,
Taking up the farmland.
yeah, I'm not for that, to take up that, I'm not against solar panels, but to take up all this good soil.
Yeah.
I'm not for that. I've got some hills out here out in Jackson Township, out here by the Murrays, that if we could put them on that, that'd be fine. Or how about the parking lots at Delco Remy?
Good idea, I never heard that idea.
Yeah, yeah, stuff like that. But personally, I'm not against them, or the wind. I'm not against
I'm just
it,
saying
progress.
you are. I just
but-
can't stand to think about taking a good farmland and.
Oh,
and
yeah,
cover it
1,000
up.
acres the way I read.
Or surround people's houses.
Oh,
with
yeah.
them.
And
I
that-
mean, that'd be awful.
Yes, it
Look
would. I'm
at
with you.
those around
That's a
your
good
house.
idea about the parking lot.
I say, I like the parking lot idea.
Well, yeah, there's parking
That would
lots.
almost dress them up.
You talk
A
about the
man's
change
wall
that you
parking
saw
lot,
in your
that's
life.
awful.
Think about the change that went through your grandparents' lives.
Oh, yeah.
From horse and
Oh,
buggy
yeah,
to going to the moon.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good
they were
point,
well,
I mean, you
Flossie
know.
wasn't, but
Yeah.
Clifford. In fact, we went over to Clifford's house, cause in '69, he had a colored TV. So we had a black and white, so we got in the car and ran over to see it on his TV.
Golly.
I
Yeah,
remember the first TV
golly.
we had a picture screen about that big around. It was, Strongberg Carlson TV. And one channel is all you could get, and that was channel 6.
Well, there were three others, wasn't there?
Doug, we talked about plowing. One thing I thought when you have no till is, or are the arrowheads. I know a lot of farmers tilled up arrowheads.
Yeah, they're out there.
Because Frankton history, I mean, surrounding Frankton were all the Indian settlements. And so now there's probably a lot of them that aren't being dug up. I know a lot of them did get tilled
Yeah,
up. but
some
I-
still, a lot of farmers still like chisel plow, and very seldom anybody turns it over, but a lot of people chisel plow, and if
We
you
had
can go back,
people wanna come out and look.
I let them if they, as long as they, I did have one guy one time leave a gate open, had cattle get out, so that leaves a bad tip, but no, I say just shut the gates and help yourself, don't,
My
but,
dad got a.
Don't let my
big
cows
bowl
out.
don't
of
let my
them.
cows
I've got
out,
'em.
'cause I gotta chase them.
Arrowheads from his farm.
My grandfather lived on Pipe Creek and he had a whole big sheep, two big
Yeah.
shoebox full.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out there.
Collected them.
Yeah, you could find, back when we were kids, you could find them all the time, yeah.
Yes.
He used to take us kids out walking to help him find them, and we thought that was so exciting to go up back in the fields and look for them. But I went to my Aunt Ida's one time, and I didn't find the arrowhead, but I found an Indian head penny. So when I went in, and Aunt Ida says, "Did you find any?" I said, "No, but I found the Indian."
Put that on there.
Well, I mean, we never talked anything about the combines. Combines have really, when, in the 50s, we had a pull-type combine. It had a 5 foot, 7 foot, and you had to put, and it was, it did a nice job. It's a lot better than scythe. But then it went from that to the self-propelled without,
But no
Dad,
cab.
Dad had one without a cab. It was a Massey Ferguson. He got over Halls at Ellick.
There you thought of it, holes.
And
That's
he,
how it
he,
works.
the motor set, he sat in a little cab with
didn't-
no heater. The motor set right here. And he'd come in of a night, we had to open the windows because it was so hot, he'd be just black. And he couldn't hear because of the humming. So and then the next combine they got had a heater in it. Golly, Ned, he thought he just went to heaven.
I mean, Dad's at 101 Farm International Combine, 10 foot head, no cab.
Yeah.
You guys seen the combines run, the dust just blowing it. It was dusty back then too.
Yeah,
Dad just sit out there in the platform, drive that thing, no hair control. He'd drive it, pretty soon he'd be dust, he'd have dust stacked on his cheeks. And I can't bean dust to this day. If it
Oh,
gets on there,
oh, I know,
it's-
and wheat dust, oh.
Oh, well, they used to do oats.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad hated that more than we.
They
He
finally got
hated
Dad
oats.
a mask like we had to wear a while back. They got him a mask because he
Yeah.
thought he was gonna kill himself out. So he tried to wear that, you know, oh, yeah. But he'd have it stacked on it.
Yeah.
So on the combines, they've improved them too. You can sit in there now and it's, just like sitting right here. It's a lot safer, it's a lot cleaner, the air is cleaner. And my dad, we got, I don't know, he died in '04, but I'm gonna say 2000, we got a combine, I'm thinking it had a 10, 12-foot head on it. He climbed up in it, he says, well, how are you gonna look for rocks? And, cause you know, you just scan for rocks, and the longer it is, the more you gotta scan. I said, well, Dad, there's a rock trap underneath there, and we just hope and pray that it works.
They're in all of
And
it
it,
now. Yeah. Unless it's a, big.
Dad had a guy, Jim Pickering, you guys all know Jim Pickering, helped my dad out there for a few years, and Dad traded for a combine a little bit, didn't have a cab either, 303. He told my dad, he said, hey, they sell those cabs to put on there, if you'll buy one. Jim said, I'll put it on there for you. So Dad said, well, okay, if you know how to do it. You know, they'd bolt right on, it had a fan in the top, had an air breather filter like a car air filter. All it had was fan, it didn't have air conditioning. But we go out there and look, Dad's driving with the door wide open. He might have the fan open and go out there and dust all in the cab. Dad, you got a cab? Shut the door. You still got dust on your cheeks? He goes, yeah, but if I shut that door, I can't hear the machine. You know? It might be making a noise.
that's a good point.
Yeah,
With my grandson, he gets in there, Wyatt, first thing I said, no way, little buddy, not as long as I'm breathing, leave the radio off, because you gotta hear that combine. There's a hum to it. If a bearing goes out, you can hear
That
it.
extra click, click, click.
Yeah, you can hear it,
You hear
so,
all that stuff.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Didn't keep it
Yeah.
really clean. Anyway.
Yeah, and
You said
these
Frank
new ones,
replaced
like
your
he
own radio
said,
every year, too,
you
didn't
just,
I did.
the tractors
I had a guy in Frankton to
now,
rebuild them.
you
Really?
can
Yeah.
get
Of course,
satellite.
He's retired.
And
Oh,
they
did
can
he? Yeah.
steer it for your tractor when
No
you're
way.
planting corn.
Oh my gosh.
And Wyatt did it this last year, right? Or didn't he?
Do what now?
Wyatt did a steering from the satellite, yeah.
He does all that, yeah.
So you can do that now too.
Pretty
So you
soon-
have straight
pretty
roads,
soon it'll be-
because
it'll
that's
be
what
like
all
the cars,
farmers
you
worry
can just
about
let
are
it
straight
take out.
roads.
But
Well,
you
it'll
get
drive
more
us
quicker
out.
when you can straight.
My dad said, I'll get more corn out, I plant, they're not crooked, they're bent. I made them too long, I got them bent. He said, I'll get more corn out of it.
Yeah.
Those longer, straighten it out.
Yeah.
It took a while to get used to that, but I'll have to say that, you drive there and try to make a straight row all day, at the end of the day, you're not, with that, because you just hit a button, it takes it, you gotta turn it, but technology,
I used to cultivate, Dad'd keep me out of school to
Yeah.
run the cultivator.
yeah.
And trying to keep the cultivator,
Oh.
well, he'd say, Addie, don't get to take the rows out, stay in the,
That's happened before.
Yeah.
A lot. I was cultivating over here across from the scout camp, Boy Scout camp, and I was, I don't know, a junior in high school. I don't know. We had a 560 with a 4-row on the back. And you just go, when it's time for lunch, you just pull up on a thing and go home. Well, Dad put me in there about, I don't know, 9 or 10. And, well, it's corn, pretty nice corn for us. Jets flew over.
he was watching him.
And I look back and there's about 30 feet of 4 rows. It's not 1 row, it's 4-row mistake. So I got out. Of course, it's on the end of the road where Dad can see it. So I got out and Dad comes up. He says, "Have a little trouble?" I said, "Well, I don't know what happened." But he knew. He said, "Oh, it's all right. I planted a little crooked in when you straighten it out." So.
Yeah, and if the cultivators didn't work, my dad had my sister and I, we took a hose
Oh, I've done that
Especially the
too.
fields that were at the end where you see them,
Jimson
and get the
weeds.
Jimson and the milkweeds back
Yeah.
City
then.
weed, that's what weeds get.
Yeah.
Yep, I've done that
That's what
lots
Dad
of
said you
times.
gotta get.
I wish I had a milkweed plant so the butterflies would come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has some over at, that little lake we bought on 700 West, and some do come, but there's not there like
Used
they
to see it all
were.
down the country roads, on the sides of the roads
Yeah.
and all of those plants that would bring the butterflies and that.
Yeah.
What kind of plants you talking about?
Milkweed,
Milkweed.
milkweed, butterflies
Seed and
like the milkweed seeds.
Queen Anne's
Yeah.
lace and all the
Roundup's been
beautiful,
good for
old-
those.
I know.
The ones that have the little fishes in them, you know.
Roundup pretty much dried up the milk.
You ever get whipped one
Talking
of them?
about milkweed,
No.
that during
I'm
World War
treated
II,
that too.
in pods,
My
like,
mom was picking tomatoes for
yeah, you pick
Tippy
that.
County for
I remember picking
my
it back when I
grandfather,
wasn't very old, and they'd make
and I was
life
down along the
preservers
creek.
out of.
I'll be darned, I never heard
And
that.
I hooped and hollered and screamed and yelled, and they thought I was in the creek. And they had to quit picking, everybody quit picking tomatoes, and my grandfather took a milkweed.
He
on
did?
bottom. I didn't holler and hoop anymore. Well, I did for a little while he whipped them.
Yeah, man.
Well, but that's what happened, and you talked about your grandma pulling an ear.
Yeah.
Of course, now, society would say, oh, no,
No,
no.
no.
Let me tell you, it kept people and kept kids in
It
line.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did. You
I wish
did.
my dad would've said time out to me instead
Yeah.
of what. I want time out.
I mean, I'm not talking about beating, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you, a good old fashioned, you know,
Yeah.
Straighten it up.
yeah, ear tug or what have you, a milkweed.
We lived on 400 West till 2015. We moved over to, when Mom died in 13, we remodeled, kind of upgraded the house a little bit, and we live over there now. So it's a lot closer for the feedlots and everything. So we live over there now, and Mark, my son, lives on 700 West. She lives on 700 North, and I rent the other houses out, but things change.
So,
I'm just glad I got family to help me farm. It's I couldn't do it. I'd have to hire help to do it, and I'm not that. We don't have that much, but
If you had to do it over, would you stick with farming?
yeah, I like it. I taught school from 70 to 80,
Yeah.
and I had to make. I had
But she was born and.
every day I go in there. I didn't mind the school, especially in the winter. I liked the camaraderie with the teachers, and I had a lot of fun with the kids. I coached basketball, had a lot of fun doing that. But I'd come home, if it was in the spring or fall, I'd work till dark on the farm and get up the next day and go to school. But then it got to be where I wasn't doing a very good job either because I was tired all the time. So I had to make a decision either to be a full-time teacher or take on keep the family farm. So I'm glad I did what I did. I enjoy it, but just one of those things.
We bought I have a sister and we bought her out, so I own my parents. And my great-grandparents lived there, but my grandma sold it because my grandpa hung himself in the barn up there. And he needed $500. So she sold, Dad told me this, 2 or 3 horses. And then she sold it because she wanted to go in town. But then Virgil Ray, I don't know if you all know Ray Brothers canning and all that. Well, he bought it. And my dad raised tomatoes every year. And of course, back in the old days, as the kids said, we were out of school by the 15th of May. Because, of course, I went to a little school in New Lancaster. It was littler even than Leach. And,
That was little then.
yeah, well, it had K through 8. And kindergarten was every 9 weeks, or every third 9 weeks, because they'd go to Curtisville and Hobbs. But anyway, once in a great while, somebody didn't show to plant those tomatoes, and they pulled it behind the planter, and you had water in it, and you had your plants right here, and you stuck them in it. I did that quite a few times, you know. So Dad always had tomatoes. And then Virgil died in 1966. And my dad and Herschel Trimble, who lived north of Elwood, Virgil, they had first chance to buy the farm. So now it's back in the Yarlings, so.
Tomatoes are different now too, though.
Oh, yes.
Tomatoes are a lot different, Phil, you know what about, instead of being round and like you like them now, they're kinda like pear-shaped, aren't they?
Yeah, that, and they got a real hard peel, but they still have that good taste.
Yeah, they do, the taste is still about, but, boy, when they fall off of a truck, they bounce.
Oh, yeah, they're hard.
They're a firm
They are,
tomato.
they're a firm tomato.
Yeah.
And they yield too,
They had to
like
do that
other
because when
backs.
they put them in the trucks, they're so deep.
Yeah,
Before they would put them in baskets and then put the
And
baskets
Right.
on.
pyramided
So
on
they
there,
had to,
yeah.
they had to create them so they were really hard.
Dad had to,
7 cents a hamper when they picked them like that.
Yeah.
Dad
Yeah.
had to get pickers from Kentucky.
Mhm.
He'd call them, in the March, April to get in how many. He had a little building and then he set up a big tent to sleep in. And the wives and the dads and the kids, they got 10 cents a hamper.
I say,
But if all of them will work, you know, of course, things didn't cost
They
back
used to have
then.
canning factories in
Yeah,
Frankton.
we've got a
All
little bit of
hammers
history
make a
on
cake.
one
My
of them,
dad
yeah.
used to sell tomatoes.
We'd go down and play with the
We have some
kids
ads
sometimes
where they
on
had it in the
Sundays,
newspaper.
down
for-
play in the
for
yard.
Frankton Canning was Juan, I think, one of them.
Mhm.
We've been done a little research on that, but we've still got more to do.
Yeah, my grandmother used to, and would work at the one here in Frankton.
There was more than one. In
Yeah.
fact, there was,
I
I
can't,
remember one time I did some research for Brian Reichert, and we counted how many canning factories there were in the state of Indiana. It was hundreds.
Oh, it's
hundreds.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
okay, that's a good question, I have a question. When they're up there at the Little League Park, wasn't that a canning factory?
Yeah, there was.
The Little League Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Was
There
there
was
another one in
another one.
Frankton?
Yeah, there's one right down there where I
Down
live.
this way.
yeah.
I'll never forget the night it burnt.
Really?
Yeah, I caught on fire in 1950, it was either late 52 or early 53, it burned.
That's back to the sawmill one.
And
Yes,
then Phil Davis's family had the one in Orestes that is red gold now. They're the one that started that canning factory.
Yeah.
Davis's did.
Yeah.
And it burned.
Yeah.
And that's when Brian's grandfather bought it and Fran and they started red gold out there.
Okay. Another question for you all, where was the train, the thing that's, what's it called, the train station? Where was it located in Frankton? They moved it out there, but
Just right across the
Right
road.
right across the street?
Straight
Okay,
across.
okay, I didn't know.
just about right where the ice cream place is.
Ice cream place, that's where it was. They
Yeah.
just- Boy, it's a shame somebody couldn't have.
That is, we just pray every day, cause that would be a lovely
been
place
wanting
where
it.
we could have
We've been
a
wanting to get
historical
it, but
museum for
they
Franklin.
won't sell it.
They
But
won't?
it's
Who's they?
privately owned.
Carolyn and Ronnie Hall.
Oh, Ronnie, got you. She's
Yeah.
my sister's age, Carolyn is. She was a
wants,
Weimer,
I
Carol
guess she
Weimer.
wants
Right.
books in there, he wants car parts in there.
Well, she had a little bookstore at one time in there, I think, I don't know. if
Yeah,
it was
she
open to
did,
the
'cause I
public.
went down there, she had
She-
used books.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
had them there.
Doug, do you have another generation coming up to take over the farms? and
Yeah,
things?
I got, she has two boys. I don't think they'll farm, but, one of them's Dayton's 12 and Ryan's 15. And then I got Wyatt, which is Mark's son, and then and Skylar, his daughter. But Wyatt is 100% farmer right now.
He tells them what
He-
to do.
he's 20 years, he's learning, he's getting better.
He might be a little over 100%.
He's getting better, but he's just trying to,
He's still a kid.
Yeah.
But you need that energy, don't you?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
oh, yeah, I'm-
and he's, you know how big he is. He can lift, cause he can't lift anymore, and, so, yeah, he's a,
yeah, that's a good question though. Because we've bought some other places and trying to get everything so everybody can make money, and it's, gotta look at the future.
Right.
Gotta look at the future.
The little farms are going by the wayside.
Yeah, you-
so
well,
it's all big farmers.
You gotta
And
have
you can't
bushels.
blame 'em for
Yeah.
that.
No, you can't. No, you can't. It's just life and time's the way it is now. Just,
Yeah.
You've already mentioned a lot of names, but what are some other names that you could think of those small farms that are gone?
In this area,
Yes. And I know everybody around here is farming, but
Yeah.
what are some that come to
There's so
mind?
many.
help me, Phil.
Jones?
Oh, yeah, Jones Dairy, used to be a dairy out here, Jones Dairy. Good, they had Guernsey, good milk.
Jones, Marguerite,
Yeah,
In Franklin.
and
Yeah.
Oh,
Frank.
we had a dairy farm out north town here.
Bots, we're out.
Yeah, they were.
Mills had one too, didn't they? Did they have Mills? But-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I
they're-
mean, there was,
They still farm.
almost every square mile, there was a dairy farmer.
Yeah, there was. You're right.
Yeah.
I used to go ride with Johnny Uso to Best Ever when we delivered milk over there in the
No,
Kansas.
yeah.
We'd go in that back room and drink chocolate milk.
That
Which
worked.
one of you drove home?
But like, well,
See who else.
Russ Hudson, they lived around the corner from where Wilman Willard, where we live now. But he just farmed, didn't he? He didn't work anywhere
He worked
else.
at Delco. Did Russ Hudson work at the factory?
That's a tough question, I don't know.
But
When I
they,
met, when I.
but they're,
I don't-
they've,
The Paddock boys, Clint, he worked at the factory and he farmed some. and
yeah,
Clint-
paddocks out on, yeah.
Yeah, Paddocks would be kinda like that. Russ Hudson would have been kinda like that. Samuels, Oscar and Otis Samuels.
Oh,
Yeah.
Old Tom Samuels.
Tom Samuels,
Tom, yeah.
So was- what was Alvy Heath,
Alvy Heath
I
was,
don't think he worked at the factory, but.
no, but he fed a lot of cattle out there on 600.
Pettigrews.
Pettigrews, for Lloyd and Floyd Pettigrew.
Canfields.
Canfield's still going, yeah, but,
Hyatt
Jo-
Dairy Farm.
Hyatt's Dairy Farm down there,
Farmed for a while.
there's, that's a good question. There's
Yeah.
there's,
There was
quite a few of them,
probably
actually.
Hundreds in Madison County, I
Yeah.
don't know.
But, and some of them
Paddocks
now
up
are
there,
just
yeah.
linked in with other
John
farms
Cunningham,
or
they used to
somebody's
milk
bought.
cows.
Yeah.
John Cunningham used to milk cows,
Patterson, of course, they were up in Somerville.
Somerville.
That's his grandparents.
yeah. Yeah, things change, gotta learn to adapt, I guess. I gotta learn to do it, I'm bad at it, I
Just
just,
talking about getting in trouble cultivating. The first time, when I had to learn my, kind of a tough lesson, really. Anyway, I drive Dad crazy, let me go down there, plow corn down the road, that's when, between where, I live in a home place now, but down the road, that used to be about 4 fields.
yeah,
Well, go down there, and I had the old H was front mount cultivators, and we had another four-row cultivator. But every time I went out, and I was on 9 or 10 or something, I always followed him. So he'd skip 4, and I'd come down on those 4 he skipped, and I didn't have to know anything. All I had to do is 4 and skip. So I go down there, and I put that old company, he said, well, if you want to, you drive me nuts, get on the tractor, go on down there, you can get through that gate, right? Yeah. I put it on the first 4 rows, boy, I went down through there, and I'm doing pretty good, and I'm looking at these 2, and these 2 were getting plowed up. This cultivator has to be strong. So I go out the other end, and I look, I was only on 4 rows, and I had the first 4. I start back on the next 4.
oh, no.
This time, this 2 was working, and this 2 was plowing out. I got down the other end, and Dad was standing out in the barn lot down the road and see me down there getting off the tractor, wondering what I had to do to fix this. Here he come. And when Dad was mad, his nose would get about as white as this thing. He got off that tractor, boy, I slayed it. It was point rows. Where the end of the field, it was point rows, so they were crisscross. It's point rows. I wasn't on the planter rows. So he comes down there and he says, get off the tractor. And I mean, putting it lightly. But, I got off or I was coming off. One of the other. He goes, what are you doing? We can't afford to just come down here and plow this corner. And I said, Dad, I'm gonna try not to, but there's something wrong with this cultivator. I said, the 2 I was watching would go through, and those 2 wouldn't. But anyway, he goes, oh, well, you were on the planter rows, and I had no idea till right then about planter rows. he'd always just taken me out, he'd go across there and I'd go beside him.
But you
And then
didn't
he'd jump
forget,
forward,
did you?
and yeah, that was before I learned, he said, talk about learning the lesson, he was trying to stand the corn up. I didn't have time, Dad was already, I was walking around on toe of his boot by then.
I got
Well, I
another,
learned right then about the planter.
I got another story I gotta share with you about Eugene Clevenger, his dad, my uncle. You help me with this. When he go planting,
Oh, yeah, they hit the,
he goes out early in the morning, want to get planting, do a lot that day. It's in a field and there's trees along. It's trees along, the limbs stick out. And back then the planters, the marker stayed up. This side went down,
Yeah.
so you could go, and this stayed up.
Then when you come back,
And when you
it
come back-
reversed.
So he's plowing, he's going down, and he forgot to notice the limbs. And by the time he noticed, he heard it, and he turned around, it was completely
tore off the
completely
planter.
off the planter.
So I'm sitting there,
So you go ahead and finish telling.
no, go ahead.
He goes up, calls somebody,
Spoons up here.
Spoons, to
Bruises.
come and weld it. Got it all back in good shape the same day.
Don't say that
again?
I just
Went,
put
got
it-
took it out to the field
I
in the
just
same.
put- We just put it, I come back and I put it back on. And he took off right from there and went down. I don't know if it's on the same tree lit, well, it was one of them, things that mark oil pipeline. It's an oil pipeline post, you know, they're painted. He snagged her on again, same post. I'm like,
Tore it off again.
he just climbs off there and he goes, I am not capable. I am just not capable. That was about the dumbest, and I mean, if he could have whipped his own butt, I think he would have. And I just said, well, Dad, I said, the bolts will be loose now, I can get that over. Load her back up, took her back up here and welded her again.
Tore it up
I am
twice.
not capable.
Yeah, that really happened.
Oh,
Same post, same.
but farmers back, when we were in the 50s, they could fix a lot of their own equipment. And now,
Well, they didn't have computers on it.
No,
Everybody's
but
got
now-
computers on it now.
I saw where John
Can't-
Deere, was it a couple years ago, wouldn't allow the parts to go to, like you, say you could fix whatever was wrong. It had to be done in the shop, their
Right.
shop.
They probably had some kind of warranty on that equipment. And
Yeah.
if you'd done it yourself, it
Yeah.
would
Wouldn't be in-
void it.
would-
you
no.
know?
Well, I saw there on the RFD channel that the government they weren't happy with that, so
Yeah,
that,
there was
I don't,
there was a lawsuit, and
Yeah.
Apple and John Deere, all kinds of companies got.
Yeah.
but-
They're
First
not
tractor
happy with
I
a lot of the
drove
ways we
went
do
almost
stuff.
6 miles an hour.
I practiced farming one summer,
Did you?
you know,
Who for?
lichens.
Oh, yeah.
They had me, what do you call it when you got, right before they plant?
Disking or
Dis-
cultivating?
Don't go
Uh,
back.
no, disking,
Disking and something else, there's two things
Chisel
you do.
Packer, rotary hoe packer.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, they had the planter out there. You remember this, don't you?
That's the only day.
So
you
there
worked
was,
at
there was
Sugar House.
coming, there was a telephone pole out there, pretty close to the, so Bobby Likens was out there and he said, Russell, he said, you need to get a little bit closer to that telephone pole. Okay. Well, I made it around the telephone pole all right, but the planter I didn't.
Oh,
He didn't get asked back.
Yes, I did.
I didn't think you did.
Yeah. Anyway, I got into the fender of the planter.
Oh.
And I jumped off the tractor and I said, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? He said, you know, Bobby. Bobby doesn't get excited.
Yeah.
He said, it's only sheet metal. Don't worry about it.
He
Well,
said,
that
"I'll
was-
take you
made
to
you
the
feel-
truck."
made
But
you
I
feel
didn't-
better. It happens.
It took me out of the mood. I felt bad for doing it and
Well.
Yeah.
she used to bring my dinner out to me of a night.
Talk about a Arab, hey, wait.
Well, no, go on, because I had something to ask, but it's a little off the topic, so go ahead.
Talk about, you know, don't plow anymore. Well, I've been helping Likens myself last couple of years and running equipment, and I got a moldboard plow. So last year, he asked me, have you ever moldboard plow? Bob Likens, and he never really has, except for this. I looked at him, I said, we all used to do that all the time, you know, and I said, yeah, well, we'll go get the plow. So So they plow 25 or 30 acres down there in the corner with a moldboard plow, and I done it again this year, and they do that just so Bob and his kids can go out there and arrowhead hunt.
No kidding.
Well,
That'll
And it's down
show.
there by the river, you know?
Yeah, that's-
and he
the
said-
older Bob did it with his horses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I went
I
down and
believe
watched
that,
it a couple
yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, down there by the school.
Do they
Board
find a lot
building.
of them though?
Yeah, he finds them.
They're out there, just gotta,
That's
Are
pretty
you
close.
talking about arrowheads again?
Yeah.
Bobby's quite a collector.
Mm-hmm.
always,
What I wanted to say was concerning farmers, as a kid, I'll tell you what I remember. When they come to Frankton, they all had on, their blue jean, what do you call
Bib
them?
overall.
Bib overalls. Some of them, it was all jeans, and some it was the, like the pinstripes. But about every farmer that I remember back in the 50s, that's what they wore. And a lot of them had those, well, they'd have straw hats or.
with the visor, the green visor, yeah.
Now, I don't know if any of you guys.
Phil still
ever
wears them,
wore
don't you, Phil?
I got one.
But I remember Ray
Oh, I got several
Dickinson.
pair of bibs, believe me.
But I'm sure not all of them, but so many of them were there, and
My dad wore them a lot.
they always had a hanky in their back pocket.
A red one.
Red one, and they pull that out and blow their snoots.
They do that on their work gloves. A pair of pliers.
But they
Most
were all
time in
over
their pocket.
town. I mean, they come in and eat and so forth down at the country kitchen,
Yeah.
and I just
Come down here
remember
and get
that.
Where was the
haircut,
country
Jack.
kitchen?
Yeah,
Where was the country kitchen?
where the little pizza, my mom and dad owned it in 61, 62, and 63, and I'd help down there.
Downtown here by the east.
Yeah.
Next to
You-
the-
Yeah, that's a railroad track.
Across from the post office.
That's
Yeah,
about the
yeah.
longest anything you've ever been in there, the country kitchen.
Yes, the country kitchen was many, Staldemeyer, mom and dad bought it off of Staldemeier's, and then they sold it to Ashton's. But I remember the farmers all coming in there, and they were all dressed in bib overalls.
Tell what the prices were.
Yeah, cause he's got some
I got a lot of
menus.
them.
Yeah.
and
No
I do
kidding.
too.
Toast and bacon for 75 cents.
Ah,
Well, you could get a full meal with 3 sides for 90 cents. That was
No.
your meat, your sides,
Coffee
your
and tea
bread.
was a dime.
Yes, and if you got 2 sides, it was 65 cents.
no kidding.
Oh,
Yes.
Roy's Big Boy was just a little bit higher now.
Yeah,
Yes. I worked there too, so I remember.
yeah,
Hendrick's.
Roy's big boy.
I think my sister worked there as a car hop
Yeah.
when they first opened
Yeah.
or something down there. Henry.
Oh, the
Hendrix.
liquor stand?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know if I
remember
used to tease her
they had roasted
later on if she
chicken.
wore roller skates. I don't know if they did any of that or not, you know. so-
No, I don't think they did.
I think she got,
Driveway, how you run
yeah,
roller
yeah. Seemed like she
I
got
worked
like
there in the
50 cents an
60s.
hour or something, or a quarter, or plus tips or something.
I worked there in the 60s and we did roller skate, and we got 50 cents an hour.
Here's Roy, here
and it-
comes Roy.
And Roy would even come and pick you up if you need to ride. If you became a grill cook, you got 75 cents an hour.
Huh.
Oh, I make a lot more money.
Isn't it something though, we talk about money, but that's. you
that
know.
was a
That
lot.
was good money then.
Oh, yes, it was. Well, we babysat for 50 cents an hour.
It's all kind of relative, but still.
I wouldn't babysit for $10 an hour.
But, it was doable, but now things have almost gotten out of hand.
Close.
The expense of everything, farming and everything, really. New cars, good lands.
I think that, talking about the farmers that used to be around there, I think the Canadays were there for a very long time too.
Yeah, they're right outside town, at Waldo and Millicent.
Right.
He's a school trustee, wasn't he?
He was trustee, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely people.
Real. You couldn't get better people.
Of course, Andrew, they've been
Andrews,
around
they
for a
still-
long time, Rich
yeah,
Lines,
yeah.
they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Bobby, is it Bobby Joe, or what's his name?
Tommy Joe.
Tommy Joe.
The
Heath.
Tommy Joe.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Becky Busby's still out here, her
Yep.
dad, Charles Busby.
Heaton.
Yeah.
Jerry,
He, yeah,
Back when Doug, he was talking about driving the shuttles, well, that's who him and I think we done about 20 years. We were the last of the Mohicans, and then we thought all of a sudden we'd jump in there, and they
Yeah.
had about a year of it, and they said, screw this. Well, we kinda got a kick out of it.
Well, yeah, when he got left behind, he was on the rear of a shuttle. Doug come in, he said, I lost Gene Allen.
I was probably talking to somebody else.
Well, when Wilma Willard, she told me, or Doug, when they moved over where we live now, that was still a gravel road in
Oh, I
'62.
remember that.
62.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, our road was gravel.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, you run 400 also.
Yeah.
yeah,
And Frank would come over to see me and he would creep on the car.
Yeah.
Slow, because he didn't want his car to get dusty.
yeah, yeah.
Do you guys remember the old Iron Bridge used to be across the White River there on 600? Right there at the bottom of the hill, the old Iron Bridge, I remember that.
Hamilton Road?
Hamilton Road, yeah.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I used to dream that I'd be on that and that bridge came in on me.
Oh, well, that's a bad dream.
That's not
Wake
bad.
up.
I was scared to death of that bridge.
No kidding, I don't blame you.
There was one out on 400 too, going to my grandparents' house. Where
Up
I
north
lived
of-
down there at the bottom of the hill.
About 900,
400, just
400.
North of
900
one, of
Well,
120.
north of 128.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the white
We
elephant.
used to call that eight,
Somebody wrecked on it and that's when they poured out.
we used to call that 8-man's bridge when I was in school. Somebody seen an ape out there one night, and we was all out there. And maybe they
It's
let
probably
me-
you, Gene.
Maybe they let me out there. Go find the ape. I know I did go snipe.
The deal we used to, do you remember what we used to do? We used to take them out in the country, tell them snipe hunt.
No, snipe hunting.
Yeah,
Remember doing that?
yeah, you were leader of that. You were the leader, buddy. That's right.
Snipes.
I know.
You got a cold flashlight behind that sack.
Well, that's getting a little off the topic now. Back to farmers.
Talk about arrowheads, my wife, she's from Missouri, and where she's from is where the biggest mounds in the state of Indiana, or the state of Missouri was. And back years ago, the farmers went in and leveled all them mounds down.
Oh,
And she had an aunt that had
Surprised they let them do that.
13 bushel baskets full of arrowheads.
13. Good
All
land.
kinds of skeletons and everything.
Well-
She was looking for them every day, and
Wow, that's a lot.
she had spearheads 8-9 inches long.
There were skeletons?
Yeah,
Skeletons?
now she had
Those
skeletons.
burial mounds,
Oh, I
probably.
know.
I guess you go out there at night and
I
you
thought that was
just,
against
with
the
the
law.
moonshine, you see the teeth and everything.
What's
wow.
on phone?
Do you have any of those, Farmers Grain and Coal used to make rain gauges, different things, yardsticks? Do
We've
you,
had a couple things.
We've had a couple things.
do you have any,
Brian.
any of that, you collect, do you have any of that stuff?
What is it?
From Frankton, Grain and Coal over here?
Yeah, I got.
Do you have it like yardsticks or rain gauges that says their name on it?
I've got the square ones, got Frankton, the lumber yard over here.
Yeah.
Lumber yard and all that, yeah.
Rulers.
Yeah?
I
have an ice
when the
cream
square ones come out,
Yeah.
because,
It's my grandma Mary's.
I'll
every
bet.
once in a while,
Yeah,
I'd
it
be
says
on enough, and mom would get the
1950s,
yardstick
like
out,
50 something.
No kidding.
Yeah.
whack me with it, and
I got
I
the
got old enough,
square
she'd
ones,
just break them off, I'd laugh, then Dad got to bring home with them,
Yeah.
they were inch square, and they were like a cattle cane, buddy. They didn't break, I wasn't laughing then.
Well, a lot of people use those for canes.
Yeah, they're strong.
Yeah.
I think I got one somewhere, but I don't know where. I
I
can't.
got over 50 hay hooks.
50.
Hooks, the
Gee,
harpoon hooks, you ever see the single harpoon?
not really.
One comes down and it's for loose hay and all that.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think I
Hard to
have.
find.
Yeah, they're hanging up in the barn right now.
You do?
Yeah.
Out here?
My daughter's got one in
The
her
hooks,
house.
they come down, grab the hay.
Well, that's your gaff hook, but your harpoon, you got a double harpoon and you got a single harpoon.
Yeah,
Just one prong comes down, will go down, then the prong go out where you pick the
we got a
hay
load,
up.
half a load of hay and one scoop, one thing.
Yeah,
And we go up in the hay mound and over and
trip it.
me and my sister or something was
remember
up there
those
one
days.
time when they was bringing in that hay, you know, it's a big door at the top. And we was up there on a beam or something, and a load of that hay came in. Of course, we didn't know what was going on, but we jumped from there all the way down the barn, it was about 20 feet.
Damn.
You know that hay mound up
Yeah.
there.
There you go.
It held 100 ton of loose hay.
Loose hay,
Loose hay.
God, yeah.
300 ton of baled
Baled
hay.
hay.
That's a lot of
And
hay.
we
That's a
filled
bunch.
it every year,
Oh, but we had to.
yeah.
That's another thing, loose hay and then the small bales. And we had elevators and Dad would call the high school guys when he did it, and Strawn, and I suppose they did too, but now they got these big round bales. Oh, unbelievable.
They used to get over with threshing machines too, that's back before my time, but
Yeah, me too.
my dad said he just got old enough, he couldn't run he took a horse and went and got water. He was the water boy, run up and pump the water, and then when they'd come up and take a break with the horses, he watered the horses. But he never got big enough to be a thresher, but he always told me a story about one guy's, team of horses that had, I don't know, they're shucking corn maybe, and when they do that, they're throwing it by hand, and they say, get up, whoa, you know. Well, the horses got aggravated, and they took off, and he couldn't hold them. Well, he took his horses and went home, and he's coming back the next day. And this guy says, well, he's coming back, we thought maybe he wouldn't come back today, and the guy says, yeah, he took them horses home, and he says, you watch those horses today, how they act. And the guy say, whoa, boy, stop. He says, them horses' only fear today is, after he took them home and worked on them last night, that he's gonna say, whoa, and they don't hear him. So that's what they're afraid they don't hear him.
Ken, do you remember the, threshing days they used to have up at Scott Campbell's, North Elwood?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I used to love to go to that, and it
Sure.
was just that machinery, I was like, how in the world did they ever accomplish anything with this?
Good point. They were in some nice stuff up there.
Oh, yeah,
Just
there was always
took care of
Wasn't
it.
it called
Nice,
old
nice
threshers?
equipment.
Old fashioned
Yeah,
thresher
real nice.
days.
Before all the roads, like our road now, and 700's a busy road with kids coming to school. But when you left Elwood to go to Anderson, you always went 28 to 9. You never cut through the country. Well, it was all gravel and stone, you know. And no matter, of course, they didn't have a mall back in it was to go downtown. So we always, when Mom and Dad, or sometimes I'd come with my aunt and uncle and cousins, and we always went 28 to 9, and, because none of the roads, my uncle was like, didn't want to drive on the gravel.
Right. Well, and then they took a spell, they'd, put oil right in front of your
Yeah.
house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was,
Slow the dust down.
Oh.
And my youngest sister, Carol, with
Yeah.
light blonde hair, she was sitting out there one day at the edge of the road, and she played in it and got it in her hair.
Oh.
It worked, though, it kept
Your
it
dad,
down.
John, he didn't like
after it
that.
got the oil on.
Dad, John, he didn't like that.
No. That was-
It was her dad, John,
They still do
back
tassel
porch on where I live.
Yeah, but they don't, they do it with mechanically.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta-
the kids doing it anymore.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't figure.
Yeah,
I used to ride the school bus with him.
Oh,
yeah.
Was Uncle Art your bus driver?
Yes,
Or
and Herschel was.
Yeah. Herschel.
Yeah.
Yeah, his
And they were
aunt and
both good,
uncles
but
were.
I really loved Herschel. He was the nicest bus driver. Art was nice too, but.
Yeah.
But
Art
Art
was
was
probably
ornery.
more
What?
Art might be a little bit more entertaining.
Herschel was very patient with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want those passed on around if
Oh.
anybody else wants any of those.
I'll take one now.
My
I
grandpa,
left you a napkin.
Darling, drove a school bus around New Lancaster, and they call it the hack.
Oh, yes.
The hack.
Called hack.
Yeah, that's what they called it.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, we'll.
Kathy, when did your dad pass away?
Pardon me?
When did your dad pass?
It was 2 years, this past Thanksgiving.
He was a good guy.
Yeah, he was. You meet every month,
Every month,
the fourth Thursday.
fourth Thursday.
How much does it cost to join?
25, but we haven't collected dues for this year.
We more or less,
we
we're pretty
kind of-
loose on our rules.
Yeah.
It's just kinda-
COVID
Nobody's gonna
really-
show up at your
COVID
door.
really-
We're just happy people are here. We don't care if you pay.
Yes, it was COVID and it was, we're just very casual, it was more of getting together and talking about the history of Frankton.
Yeah, it's interesting,
And
huh?
we
It
did
is,
all
it's
sorts
really
of-
been
It's
interesting.
interesting.
People keep giving us things, that have to do with
Yeah.
the memories in Frankton. And so we kind of researched those and talked about those, and then he's gonna, on Heritage Days weekend, we're going, because it's the bicentennial for Madison County, each township is responsible to do something, so we're in Pipe Creek, and so they asked us, and we're gonna have a pop-up museum, and he's gonna bring a lot of the stuff. You were asking about the rulers and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, so we'll have all sorts of things. It'll either be here or back there, we're not quite sure where it's gonna be, we don't have the details yet, but.
Which month was it?
Everybody's-
Which-
Heritage Days.
Heritage Days, the
Gotcha.
weekend of Heritage
Gotcha.
Days, and it'll only be
Gotcha,
on
yeah.
Sunday.
They're marking certain grave sites too.
Yeah.
Oh, I say, yeah, we had that tour a
The
couple of years
trolley.
ago through the cemetery. It was neat.
Yeah.
Do you usually have a